Hi, welcome to our farm, Cornucopia Orchards. Over the last few days, we've been hard at work.
Good not one to move. Doesn't want to come out.
90 pounds is a lot of pounds.
It is a lot of pounds, yes.
We cleaned up the yard, unloaded our flooring, I primed the stairs to the attic, and then I moved the remainder of supplies out of storage in our shop down to our house. And after a month of drywall work, it turns out the last few days were the proverbial straw, and my carpet tunnel flared up bad enough it's kept me from sleeping a few nights. The worst it's been since our last farm's water crisis. While I convince it to calm down, I want to keep busy, so we bought a brush mower for my tractor. It just needs a little work before I can use it. So first thing I'm going to be doing is just getting some lubrication here onto this guy, free that up so we can do something with it. All right, give it your best shot there. I'll pick it up. Can you free that, you think? Not sure if it's loosening. You want to give it one little whack? Let me give it a whack. I think that's seized up pretty good. All right, so I hooked this thing up. Bottom doesn't look too bad. There's a couple of spots right in here on the other side of that plate that I'll need to address. I'm gonna give these blades a little love. Just kind of grind them. They're a little bit vertically loose.
What is this yellow?
But I've seen worse. Here, you just have to point it. Try to hold it so you don't get your finger in the way. Just hold it, your finger's in the way. Yep. There you go, just like that. I'm gonna be over here. I gotta plug this in and then we'll try grinding this thing down. One minute. Okay, let's try it again.
Doing a good job, but I got to get a little closer. I'd like you to cover your ears.
Get the other side just to give it a quick sharpen. I don't know if I can. We're gonna try. I've worked the whole drive shaft off because we are stuck on here. It's not wanting to come off. I hit it a couple times and waited with 3-in-1. It is not coming off. So what I've done here is I've ground this down just a little bit on what I have, put the 3-in-1 all over it nice and liberal. And I'm gonna try and drive this down and see if I can get it to go that way on the theory that then maybe it will come back the other way easier. If you can get started, sometimes that's all it takes.
Does not appear to be persuaded.
I do not think it is thinking it wants to do that, no. There is a possibility. See that weld down there?
Mm-hmm.
We might be bottomed out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, my camera women had to run away because my younger son hit his thumb for the second time in a couple of days with a hammer, which he stole from me while I was working on this little project here. But I've split the collar and given myself a hammer ring, if you will. And between those two things, I think I've almost got it. So I cut through the side, I ground through this piece here part way, and then finished it with a metal blade on my Sawzall. So this now runs free, and I can tap it and it moves. You can see that. So that one's free, and I can use it without fear of ruining the edge here, I think. So I've gotten maybe 1/4 of an inch. There we go.
What?
It up, clean off all the garbage, and then it should be fine for me to reattach that, and it'll slide real easy for me. So first part of this project at least is done. I did have to remove this chunk of collar here, so you can see that ground cut. So this is what happens when you leave equipment without properly greasing it, and especially if you don't keep up on it, those grease zerks will seize up, they will fill, and then you can't get more grease into it. And it's just an old piece of equipment, so you've got to expect some of this type of thing. All right, so I got it all nice and shined up. I put a little bevel on this edge, which it didn't have. That will help it start to slide in here. And I beveled the inside as well as cleaning up the outside sharps that I'd made on this tube. And so it should come together pretty good. I'm just gonna put on a liberal coat here of some standard grease, if I can get this thing to go. May have been out. Of course, naturally. Well, wouldn't you know, there's more in there than it acted like. I hate that little tube. Not my favorite. I'm just gonna give it a nice, full, huge amount of grease on here. Just gonna butter it on because it's out of the tube now. Now that that's a delightful color of pink, and I've got some stuff down into the tube on top here, should be more than sufficient lubrication for this. Let's get it attached together again. Now in theory here, should just be able to slide that in nice and easy. Interesting. It's as far as it really wants to go. I didn't measure that, but I wonder if this is the wrong one for this shaft, and there is a obvious weld down there. So maybe that's what's going on. All right, so we're attached in back here, and the little pin, normally you just push from the one side and then you slide onto the spindle with your PTO attachment on the arm. And for whatever reason, this one required you to not push from the bottom, but push from the bottom and then pull from the top in order to get that interior lock to move out of the way enough to slide it on. So that took me a bit. But other than that, it went on very smooth. I believe we should have plenty of arm left, although it did come out a ways on this tractor. It's obviously a larger tractor than was on here before, because I didn't take off that much, of the collar. So we're gonna take this over to the pasture and I'll fire it up and we'll see if it throws an arm through the house or something. These newer tractors, at least in the Kubota brand, seem to have a feature where you've got to clean out the filters by running the tractor on a higher RPM. And it's a pretty heavy tractor for most of the farm work we do here, and I haven't felt the need to run it on such a high RPM most of the time. So fortunately, as this light comes on and tells me I have to run it for a period of time until the light goes off, at least we're doing something where the RPM already has to be high enough. I just run it at PTO speed, and that's good enough. So far, so good. Take a look underneath and see if there's anything too polished up underneath under there. That was definitely, you probably heard that chatter, there's definitely some loosey-goosey, and it's hitting something as it goes around. Not really sure what that noise would be. So I don't see any wear patterns, do you? Maybe a little bit right there? Well, I knew this was going to be something I was going to have to do some work on. And you could definitely see a fair amount of play right here. So that's not going to hold long term without some work. But I think that this is going to be fine for us. I can do some welding. Won't be good, but it'll work. Pretty rough on the cut, but the field's a little bit bouncy. Down there even, a little bit bouncy. But I got that whole slot mowed minus little bits here and there, little oases around the trees where I just don't want to try and deal with it. And there's stuff piled around, a lot of them. So once we're able to get in here and really clean this up, it's going to be a useful tool. I imagine that I'll probably use it until we're ready to start planting in, and then I'll get a new one. It's definitely not a long-term tool for us. At least I don't plan on it being a long-term tool, but sometimes these things turn into long-term investments. Still, if I'm in 350 plus some welding sticks and a chunk of metal for now, I think that's fine. She says, oh, don't make me talk. So we're just looking at this stairway here, and you know, it's fully dried and we haven't been up here for a couple days. We're gonna put some paint on it and turn it into Oxford white instead of primer white, I guess, right? But it came out so nice.
It really did. The seams just disappear. This is definitely the best sheetrocking job we've done so far. I couldn't even tell you where the seam is. So I'm very pleased. We were both a little bit worried, but I think we're good to not do texture on these walls, which really makes me happy because I like untextured walls.
Yeah, flat texture all the way for this place, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I think that really set the carpal tunnel off was, well, maybe not one thing. It was all the things I did in the day leading up to it. I had, you know, we'd moved 4,500 pounds of flooring one day. I moved a bunch of it around again the next day, and then moved down another 2,000 pounds worth of materials from the shop that we've been storing long-term into the house. And then I did a bunch of electrical, like, you know, just basically checking and making sure that the wires that I had put in for the lights were done correctly. Obviously before we mudded and painted. Should probably have done that before we put up the sheetrock, but I figured at least, you know, better now than never. And then I did a little bit of painting, and that all is wrist work, and it just was too much. So Casey is going to take over doing the painting for me on the stairs here, and we're going to get to see our Oxford white. This is Sherwin Infinity, and we've used the Sherwin Everlast on the exterior of the house, which is their best, at least through Lowe's, their best paint for the outside, and the Infinity is their best for the inside. So we have used cheap paint in the past, and it's cheap and we hate it. So we're trying the best, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Go back and roll. Usual way of doing things. It's just a little creamier than white.
Camera makes this little stairway space seem really big.
I mean, it's a fair-sized space. There's a reason I wanted you to turn it into storage.
I know.
I totally understand why you didn't.
In part, it became just a matter of cost, you know. It was going to cost to turn it into something different. Well, I mean, it's wet right now, but that's a lovely white.
Yeah, just a little warmer than the primer.
Yeah, with very little of the gray of the primer. I actually kind of like the primer, but I like that right now, at least. We'll see how it dries, but I like that a lot more, I think. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. No, the primer's too white for me.
So Casey's got some of the wall paint on, and just checking this match for the plate. It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty darn close. You couldn't ask for a lot better match than that. What we'd found with creamier whites is that they made your electrical fixtures look really dingy. And so I like the fact that this white just blends in with the electrical fixtures.
Yeah.
Nothing really stands out, and it brings a lot of light to where you're putting it, because it's just a very neutral white.
So you cut in and you've done kind of half of this wall, and you're headed back now.
So it's really hard to tell where it ends, but it's...
You can kind of see it, yeah. And you thought a second coat, probably?
Yes, definitely a second coat.
We're using a really, I just didn't buy the supplies ahead of time, but we're using an old roller.
It's also just really...
beat up,
yeah.
Yeah, we've used that several times now. I mean, there's red on there, there's a blue on there, there's... When I washed it out last time, there was... Yeah, but it's going to be really nice.
Thanks for watching.
I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.